Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to take a very quick look at Cargo Noir. This game is for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, and the average play time is between 30 and 90 minutes long. Now this is a worker placement game that tasks players with collecting cargo and then trading that cargo in for victory cards. Let's just take a quick moment to look at the components and see how the game is played. As far as the components are concerned, over here on the right-hand side you have a number of different boards. This large one in the back is the Macau board. This will serve as the centerpiece and will house the black market and the casino. These other smaller boards will surround the larger Macau board, and these will act as ports. These are where goods can be spawned and traded throughout the game. At the beginning of the game, each player will receive one of these character sheets, and this is sort of a twofold item. Basically, along the top here, you've got a warehouse of sorts that allows players to keep track of what goods they've collected throughout the game. As you can see, there is a limited number of spaces available. Along the bottom is sort of like a cheat sheet that tells the players how much these goods are worth should they try to trade them in. The top one here, this top row, represents the value if players trade in goods of different types, whereas this bottom row represents the values that the player would earn if they trade in goods of the same type. Over here on the very right is a turn sequence reference guide. Now these ships here will serve as the quote-unquote workers that players will be assigning to these ports and boards throughout the game. As you can see, there are 5 different colors, and each player will receive a unique set at the beginning of the game. To go along with these ships, players will also be placing these coins. This acts as currency for bidding purposes. To sum this up, as players are placing their workers onto these ports to try and get these goods located there, they'll also be placing these coins along with their ships to sort of bid on the goods, and whoever has the highest bid when their turn rolls around again will actually win the goods located there. Over here on the left-hand side is a draw bag filled with tons of different goods. Now this is just a small sample, but as you can see, they're pretty flashy and eye-catching. You've got things like jewels, weapons, art, cars, wild cards, and players will be trying to collect these to place into their warehouse. Now, as players collect the goods from the ports to their warehouse, they'll be able to trade those goods in via these 2 rows down here, as I was showing you earlier. As players trade these goods into the bank, players will be earning temporary imaginary currency. And using this temporary imaginary currency, they'll be trying to buy these victory point cards. Now, if you'll notice, there are 2 values in the top part of the card. The one in red is the cost of the card. This is how much you'll need to spend from that temporary imaginary currency that you earn for trading in goods to actually buy these cards. The value on the right is the number of victory points that the card is actually worth. Just to wrap up the components bit, you've got this first player turn marker here. One player will keep this throughout the entire game, and at the beginning of their turn, they'll go ahead and move this turn marker up this track. This basically just determines the length of the game. Game setup can take a little bit of doing. Keep in mind that I was limited by the amount of space I had. This is not where the ports actually go, but this will work well for video purposes. Basically, the Macau board is placed in the center with the ports placed around it. Now, if you're playing a 2 or 3 player game as opposed to like a 4 or 5 player game, you'll be using different ports and actually excluding some. You can actually see what ports were excluded by checking out the very bottom of the individual port boards. On one side, you'll see 2/3. If there are no question marks located on that side of the board, then you could just simply remove it and place it off to the side. No goods will be traded there. However, if you're playing a 4 or 5 player game, you would include this port in with your rotation here, as there are question marks. These question marks are where goods will go. Once you have the Macau board and the port set up the way you like it, you can go ahead and start seeding the draw bag with good tokens. You'll be using all of the good tokens in the game. However, you will have to basically count the number of players in the game and include one and one only wild good per player. So if you only have 2 people playing, you'll be placing 2 wild good tokens into the bag and placing the rest off to the side. Once the bag is seated properly, you can go ahead and start drawing them randomly to fill the empty question marks on the board. After you do that, each player will receive 7 of these coins and 3 ships of their color. And their color all depends on the player card that they get. Obviously, blue character card, blue ships, green character card, green ships. You'll also be sorting out the victory point cards into their own separate pile. The extra ships that players have the option to get is placed off to the side. There are certain special victory point cards that allow players to do special things. And basically there are 3 of them. This cargo ship victory card allows a player to permanently add 1 ship to their fleet. This syndicate card, if you purchase that, if you abandon a port's cargo to competitors, collect 2 coins. And that factors in during the bidding process I was explaining earlier, and we'll show you shortly. This other card is a warehouse card, and this adds 2 slots to your warehouse on your character board. You're limited to 2 max, however. You can only have 2 of these warehouse cards. A player's turn is broken up into 3 phases, and I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really not all that complicated. The first phase involves the player resolving ship actions in any order that they wish. The second phase involves the player trading in any cargo from their warehouses to possibly buy these victory cards over here. The third phase involves sending the ships that were resolved from phase 1 back out onto these different ports and boards. Now, I won't go into every rule found in the manual, but I will play out Blue's turn just to show you a few different things. In this case, it is Blue's turn, so they'll go ahead and, because they have the first player turn marker, we'll go ahead and move the marker up the track by 1 space. With that done, they'll go ahead and resolve the ship actions in the order that they wish. If a ship is by itself on a port, they can go ahead and take the ship back, put it next to their player board, and the coin that they use to bid with will go to the bank. Now, any goods that were located at that location can be placed into their warehouse. Of course, you can only have 6, but since Blue happens to have a warehouse card over here, Blue can go ahead and place that extra good over here in the extra warehouse card. Now, in this particular case, Green happens to have a ship located on the same port that Blue does. Green has 3 bid tokens here, while Blue only has 2. Blue has a choice to make. Blue can either take his coin back and keep it and just put his ship back into his quote-unquote inventory and let Green have it for his turn. Or Blue can go ahead and use a coin or coins from his available stock to add to his own so that the value of the bid exceeds the other player. At that point, Green will have a choice to make when his turn rolls around. Finally, Blue has a ship on the black market space, and the black market allows a player to do 2 different things. The player can either draw a random good from the bag to add to their warehouse, or they can trade a good for another one listed here. In this case, Blue has a ton of gold and 1 ivory. So Blue is going to go ahead and use that ship action here to trade this ivory in for this gold. Just as a side note, anyone that happens to land on this casino space will earn themselves 2 coin. Phase 2 involves the player trading goods in for these victory cards. And in this case, blue has a ton of gold. And if you look at the chart down here, having 6 of the same good will yield the player 36 currency. Not to be confused with this coin, mind you. This 36, or this value of 36, is just a temporary currency to be used for that turn only to purchase these cards over here. There is no change given if you happen to trade in more than the cards that you spend. In this case, blue has 36 to spend, so in theory, blue can go ahead and buy this paparazzi card, which is valued at 36. At the end of the game, that'll net the player 40 victory points. Once Phase 2 is done, the player will go ahead and enter Phase 3, or the assigning of ships back out onto the ports and boards. In this case, blue has 2 available ships to use. In this case, however, let's say that blue wanted to put a ship on Hong Kong, but green already has a ship there with 2 bid tokens. To put a ship at this location, blue would have to out him with 3 coins or more to outbid him. However, blue only has 2 coins in his possession, so blue will not be able to fight for these goods here. However, blue notices that there is absolutely no one on Panama, so blue will go ahead and only bid 1 coin for Panama, and then place the other ship over in the casino just to earn himself more coins. Now, one thing I did forget to note, during Phase 1, when your ship is resolved and you buy goods at a location, you will draw goods from the draw bag to replace all of the goods that were purchased and placed into the warehouse, just so that goods are available for the next player when they take their turn. Now, this will continue. Players will continue taking turns until the turn marker reaches a certain point. At that point, whenever the first player gets to that game end turn, each player will take 1 final turn. Now, during that final turn only, during Phase 2, when you're purchasing victory cards, players can use their coin that they may have in their bank to use in addition to their goods to buy these victory cards. Before, these coins were only used to bid on goods in the game. In the last turn of the game, players can use these cards in addition to their goods to purchase these victory point cards. And at the end of the game, whoever has the most victory points will win. And there you have it. That's just a very brief look at the game Cargo Noir. Keep in mind that I didn't cover all of the rules found in the manual, but this should give you a nice general overview as far as how the game is played. You can check out my review at www.dadsgamingaddiction.com, or you can simply click on the link in the below description. That'll take you there as well. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.